Well, hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Johnny and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. So this is going to be part one of our Diesel Tug by Lindberg. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, if you saw the kit review, you know that I lost the chain, but here it is. I got a chain. I found it really close to the trash can, so yeah, you got to be careful. I do need to move that trash can. I have accidentally knocked parts down in there before, so that's not a good thing. All right, let's see. We're gonna get to work on our tug. Let's jump down to the bench here. So I think the first thing we need to sort out is going to be our base, so that, well, number one, we'll have some place to set our tugboat. So we're not going to need that deck. We'll set that off to the side there. And so we have this board that I got from the hobby store. Now it's a sign board, but we're going to use it as a wooden base. And we're going to need that to mount the stands for our boat. So I guess the first thing to do is go ahead and separate each one of our stands here. So we have a forward stand and a aft stand. So we'll go ahead and separate those from these sprues right here and get those cleaned up. So yeah, position here is kind of important. We need the keel of our boat to be pretty much level with the actual board that we're going to mount these stands on. So from the side, this is what it looks like. So I need to get everything kind of even. So I'm going to use a sliding rule here. It's got a little T on it there that allows me to make adjustments. And I can get the front and the rear stands at an equal distance. That way it's kind of symmetrical. So once I get that measurement, I can go ahead and I want to use a permanent marker. And now, as you can see, I left that plastic shrink wrap right on the board there. That way we're not marking on the wood. We can just use that as our template. And using a permanent marker, I'll just draw a line across it there. And that will catch the edge of our front stand there. And then we'll do the same thing for the rear. And just draw us a little line right there. Now this way, when we go to remove this plastic, we're not going to have any marks. So that's good. So using my sliding rule again here, I can kind of figure out where center is. And once I get in the center, we'll just mark that. And then we can go ahead and also we'll mark our little holes there for screws to hold that in place. So we'll go ahead and mark both those up. So now this is a scribing tool, which is also really good at finding the center. So I can use this and make a little dent into the wood here. That way we have perfect alignment, or well, as perfect as I can make it, for drilling a hole for our screws. So now at the hardware store, I did pick up these flathead type screws. These are brass. I thought the brass would look pretty good. And that's kind of what we're going to do, I guess. Now we can always darken that if we don't like the brass later on, but I think it looks all right. So we'll go ahead and use those. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to size up a drill bit just slightly smaller than the shank of the actual screw. So it's going to be smaller than the threads. The threads are going to protrude around. So just double check our depth here. I'm going to use a little bit of Tamiya masking tape to make sure that I don't drill all the way through the board. that wouldn't be a good idea. I'll be drilling into my mat, and so we don't want to do that. And I'm going to use the Tamiya handy drill here, which seems to handle drilling this wood no problem at all. And we just drill down to our little depth gauge there that we have. So we do have some debris has collected underneath this. So I'm going to kind of take this clear plastic off now, that little shrink wrap stuff there, and get that dusted down. And we can go ahead and screw these into place. So we just need them snug. I'm going to zoom out here so that my hand doesn't really mess up the focus too much. So once we get these screwed down into place, we need to double check and make sure that everything is just as we expected it to come out to be. And yeah, it looks pretty good there. So checking it from the side, you can see, yeah, that looks good. Now don't be fooled by the way the front of the boat, or our tug here, the bow is always usually standing much higher than the stern. So that's in good shape. So I do have some photographs here of this very type of tug, which is an ST type. And as you can see, we're going to be using these photographs here as reference for us to be building our tug. And there are a lot of elements that's not included in the kit, but we can take references here from these photographs. Now here's one of these ST tugs in military World War II gray. So, all right, so we need to take care of some things, and I'm going to be using the Tamiya putty here to fix that. We have a hole in the stern of the tug there. I think that has something to do with the fact that this kit was once, and I guess you could still do it too. You could still make it into an RC model, and it would actually float. But ours is not going to be floating, so we're going to fill that hole. And then with our bulwarks here in the top rail, right where that rear hole is, it doesn't really do anything for our model. Yeah, we need to kind of fix all that. So there's that little half moon thing that needs to be taken care of, and then some sort of bolster that they have molded in that, well, we don't need for our model because that's not in the photographs and there's no parts to actually attach to it. So well, I'll cut that off and then kind of grind it down a little bit, and just using the of course our Tamiya grinder for that, or yeah, grinder, router, yeah. So anyway, we'll grind all that down. Now to get in really close, I'm just going to use a modeling chisel here and scrape off all the high stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple, straightforward. By using this chisel, I can stay flat to that surface there and just kind of clean it up some there. So let's take a look at our box art here, and you can see where they have eliminated that little detail there for the model, which is, well, that's what we're in the process of doing. So that's kind of what we want it to look like. So going back with our Tamiya putty here, we're going to kind of fill this. And since we're using Tamiya putty, what's going to happen is this is going to actually shrink. And when it does, it's going to, when it's fully cured, it's not going to look very pretty. And we may have to go back in and put another coat over top of it and let that cure too. So it's kind of a long process, but I'm just going to use a cocktail stick or a toothpick, whichever you prefer, and we're going to kind of sculpt in that rib there that runs right at the back of the stern there where we removed all that plastic. So here we have some polystyrene, and I think I've got it in inch here, and we switched over to millimeters, so it's just under a millimeter. It's 0.9 millimeter in thickness, and that's the thickest stuff I have, so I'm going to use that to kind of fill this half moon section here in our top rail. So I'm just going to lay it up underneath it there, a little bitty strip, and we can get a couple of pieces out of this pretty easy. I just take a pencil once I get the lead to come out. There we go. So we'll just take and trace out that curvature there. So we're going to need at least 2 of these and probably some filler as well, but that's fine. So I'm just using some utility scissors here to cut that thick polystyrene, and we'll get that little half moon cut out there. And like I say, we need to make 2 of these in order to build up the thickness there. And we'll leave the edge long. So it's going to require a little bit of sanding there, but it's a fairly decent fit. It's not bad at all. And I have tested it, so the To Me Extra Thin works on this plastic, so it's just normal polystyrene plastic. You need to be careful because sometimes if it's an old kit, sometimes the plastic that they used, your cement may not work, and you may have to find something different there to actually attach your parts. But we're fine here. This kit being fairly newly manufactured from very old molds, it being basic polystyrene. So I've doubled it up here to fill that little half moon divot, and we're going to have to let that set up. So as we go around the rest of the kit, while we're waiting for all of our Tamiya putty and cement and everything to dry, there's a whole lot of parts that have ejector pin marks, and yeah, some, in this case here, a little sliver missing. And yeah, I mean, it's an old kit. This kit first came out in 1956, so we kind of expect all that. And then the deck there on the very top of our bridge, as well as these huge ejector pin marks that are on each and every one of the doors. So we're going to have to clean all that up. So I'm just scraping off the flash that's around it there, and we'll go and fill all that. We'll have to sand all that stuff down. So while I was fooling with that stuff, we just trimmed off the excess polystyrene that we had there. Kind of sand it down. Check our thickness there. It's pretty close. Not bad. Yeah, that's going to be fine. So here is the stern section here, all dressed up there. Sanded and trimmed and all that. So, of course, all that takes time, as well as our hole that was in the lower hole there. We've got that filled, so that's ready to go. So looking at our very simple instructions, we're going to work on part number 7, and they call these fenders. And these travel down the side of the hull there to protect the tugboat's hull. And I think it's probably right now is a good time to take care of that before we get any other parts in our way. And if we look at our box art here, you can kind of see that the water line is extremely low, and that fender rail there that travels down the side of our tugboat is kind of spaced way down, and I don't think that that's as far down as it's supposed to be. So let's go back and look at one of our photographs that we have. And as we can see here, that very rail underneath the gunnel there, if we follow our instructions in the kit, we're going to have it spaced way too far down. So we're going to have to fix that. And that's easy enough to do because there's no marks on the lower hull whatsoever for alignment. And we're going to have to create that ourselves. So the first thing to do is decide exactly how far down we want this setting below our deck. So I have my scribing tool here. Now you can get one of these scribing tools off of Amazon. That's where I got this one. It's relatively inexpensive. And so I have it set at a 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to run the little tang over top of the hull and allow the pencil to draw our line, which is where we want that fender to sit. Very simple. And so I need to check and see. I didn't draw my line far enough down. So yeah, we need to check the length on that. Extend our line a little bit. And really this scribing tool works very well for this. And we'll be using it again when we go to set our water line. But for now, we just need to make sure that our fender rail here follows the contour of the actual deck. Now when it comes to putting our fender rails on, we're just going to clamp them into place and just going to follow our pencil line right down the side of the deck, or the side of the hull, I should say there. And as you can see, I am putting my clamps on at an angle, and that's because they've got those little orange swivel heads on them there. And if you can put it, the swivel head at a cross angle like I'm doing here, we don't have to worry about it, number one, pushing that rail out of place, and also it'll give it really good clamping pressure, and we don't have to worry about our clamps kind of swiveling out of line there. And so we just need to use a little to me extra thin there. Well, actually I use a lot. So we're just going to go down the side of the hull there and secure that into place. So I'm using plenty because I want it to really adhere. And of course, once that's done, I've already gotten one side on, as you can see here, and the second side is ready to have the clamps taken off. So we'll go ahead and pull those off there. Now these fender rails do have some ejector pins on the outside that you have to fill and sand, so that's no big deal. Now since I did use too much to me extra thin on it there, I've got some spots that I need to polish off a little bit, and we'll just go ahead and do that. Get that all cleaned up so we don't have to worry about it later. I know I should probably use a lot less, but to me it likes the fact that I use a lot of their cement there. So we do have these wire rings here that goes around the gunnel, right where the chain's going to come through for our anchor. So the instructions does tell us to glue these into place and then drill it out, but I think it's a better idea to just mark them. There's no location here. You just kind of figure out where you want it, and then put a little, using the number 11 hobby knife there, we put us a little guide hole there so we can drill it. So I drilled me a pilot hole, and then I select me a drill bit that's going to kind of touch our line. And once we get that hole large enough, we can go ahead and file it out to our entire line. Just using a round file there to get that oval look there, which is what we did. I didn't think you guys wanted to see me file this for like 10 minutes. So, so I have the other one to do. I'll go ahead and get that filed out. Now we have the same instance here on the side. Further down where these, I think they're called chalk rings, need to go in. So we made the holes the same way we did up forward, and we can just cement those in. And we'll go forward. I don't know what I called them before, but these are actually called hawse holes, I think. That's what the instruction says. So I'm going to kind of go with that since I don't know the difference. So sorry, guys. I'm not a Navy man. So, yeah. So that's what they call them, is hawse holes. And we'll just get those cemented in. There we go. And if you need to, you can go ahead and trim up that hole that goes through the bulwarks. So next up, we need to check our deck, and our main deck fits okay, which, you know, I'm not really worried about that fit because the bulwarks goes on top of it. but we do need it nice and secure down against the hull there, so we got a good contact. So we'll just throw on a bunch of rubber bands here. So I've got it all banded down nice and tight, and I'm just checking and kind of moving it around where it needs to go. And so the ideal here is that we will kind of push out the hull to meet the deck anywhere where it's kind of, as you can see there, up towards the bow. It's kind of got a lot of overhang. I don't think we'll be able to correct all that overhang on the bow, but for the actual hull going down the side of the deck there, we'll probably be able to do that. So we'll just glue up the stern section first, allowing the capillary action there, the to-me extra thin, to kind of run through that cracks. That way we don't have to worry about, we don't really want to cement our rubber bands to the model or have so much of that to-me extra thin that it runs down the rubber bands, because that would leave an ugly spot there, and then we would have to fix that. So I am just staying between the bands there, and we'll work on one side and get it 2 or 3 little sections there done. Now once that firms up for us, we can switch over to the opposite side, and we can go ahead and glue that. And we're just going to work our way forward a little bit at a time, and everything should come out all right. At least I hope it does. I'm pretty sure it will. So we're just going to continue down the side here. Now this type of tugboat here, they were called the ST series, I think. From our research and from the pictures that I kind of matched up to the hull design and the superstructure on this particular model, that's what I came up with, was ST. There was like, I think it was like nearly 500 of these, or 550 that were built. So I think there's only like 2 left in existence today. So don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But seems like a really good subject to build a model of. And these tugboats were used extensively in World War II. So next up, we are going to make some marks here with a permanent marker on the top of the bulwarks here, where I think I want to put some devices to hold those fenders that they throw over the side. So you really need to pay attention here where these other brackets are, so that you're not interfering with those, because the next fenders that we're going to concentrate on the anchor points for them. As you can see, I've already put in one side here, and we need to do the other side. So there was many different ways that they did this, either with welded brackets or cables or all kinds of things. I've decided to kind of make up some cleats here in order to secure those drop over the side fenders. So I'm going to use some round rod here. It's just polystyrene rod from a bulk pack. I'm not sure what the diameter is, but yeah, I just lost that one. Those kind of shoot off, don't they? So yeah, we're going to start off with a center piece that is 2 millimeters in length. And yeah, by putting my finger over it, we don't lose it like I did the last one. There we go. All right. So we need to make up enough here. I'm gonna make 2 for each one of the fenders. And it is, let's see, 4 on each side. So that's going to be 8, 16 of those. And we're just going to secure that little core piece, which is 2 millimeters long, in the center of these little structural pieces here for the bulwarks there. So a little drop of to me extra thin there, and we'll set them into place. Now I did run down and put me a pencil line so I can get them all lined up there. And coincidentally, the bulwarks is 8 millimeters tall. So by putting a line at 5 millimeters, which would be the bottom of where these 2 millimeter pieces go, that gets us in the center. Do the math in your head. You guys can figure it out. I'm sure you guys are smarter than I am. So, but that's what we're going to do there. So next up, we cut us some 4 millimeter length pieces, which we need to place over the 2 millimeter pieces. And that's going to give us our little cleat to tie off those drop over the side type fenders. Apparently, you know, in ships, things that are dropped over the side or on the side of the vessel to eliminate or try to minimize any kind of damage from the vessels making contact with one another are called fenders. So you got different types of fenders. There's even a bow fender. Which leads me to wonder, when it comes to fenders on your automobile or truck or whatever you drive, was that originally a naval term? And then the automotive industry used that? Something to think about. Of course, that's probably more than I need to worry about at this point. So we do have our marks across the top of the bulwarks there. I'm just going to use isopropyl alcohol here and a little bit of a napkin or paper towel there. And we're just going to clean those off because I'm not real sure how that would react with the Tamiya Extra Thin and whether or not that would give us a real nice, clean, and secure glue joint or cement joint there, because we need to put our top rail on there. So we're going to clean those off. So now when it comes to the top rail, which we worked on earlier, and there were ejector pin marks on the bottom of it, which I filled and sanded. Of course, you guys would have been tremendously bored with that, so I didn't show all that. We're just going to kind of center it up here on the stern. It has a nice little tab to help us get that spacing correct, and we're just going to go along the whole edge of it there. Once it tacks up in the stern, we can flip it over and start cementing it. And we're going to do this the same way as we did the upper deck, and make sure that everything is in alignment here. And just do it one little section at a time and just continue down the side of it there until we get that top rail cemented into place. Okay, so here we are. Went ahead and set it on the stand. So we got our stand made. Well, it's not finished, but it's made. So there we go. So stand, we got our deck on, and that glued into place. And we also made up our gunnel here and top rail, along with all the little cleats that I decided to put inside there. I did a lot of research there, trying to figure out how they did that on these tugboats for attaching the fenders. So you got different types of fenders. This rail that runs down, that's considered a fender. Keeps damage from happening to the hull. The fender will take that. And then you have a bow fender for the tugboat, as well as the drop over fenders. And those drop over fenders can be anything, these big cushiony, like looks like a tangled up fisherman's net or something like that, or even big blocks of rubber and sometimes big pieces of wood. Also tires. This is something you've probably seen a lot, is tires strung along the side of tugboats. So those are also fenders. So there was different ways of attaching all that stuff. Some of them had welded brackets on. Some of them they had steel cables and either a binder or a tensioner securing it to the hull. And some of them they're tied up over top of the top rail down onto the inside of the gunnel. And I guess it's just a matter of whoever the tugboat company was or the captain, and that's what they did. So this is what we're doing. So I think it's going to be fine. So yeah, we got a lot done. Now you're probably wondering why I picked such an old model to work on, but I think it allows us an opportunity to do things that we haven't done before, and we're able to use our creativity, and make things, because I like to make things. So we're gonna have plenty of opportunities to make and fix things. So that's all right. Oh, I did glue my finger to the top rail there, so I've got some filler in place there, which I'm gonna have to sand out, and that is that's the hazard of using, to me, extra thin, is that if you use too much, you can, and your finger or your clamping device like tweezers or whatever are kind of in the way there, and it soaks in around it. Yeah, you can end up leaving like a little divot there in the polystyrene. So you're just gonna have to fill and sand that out. So I'll get that sanded out by the next video, no problem. So okay, that's it for this part of the build so far, and we'll continue on next Friday. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel, I hope today I earned your subscription. So oh, and if you liked the video, give it a like, leave me a comment. I love talking to you guys. So all right, so that's it. I'll see you guys next Friday. Y'all stay safe.